So who is Lucifer? You've probably done some searching on the internet and read a few blogs and books and heard a few videos, and he is the angel that fell from heaven and blah 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 blah. I'm going to give you a bit of a different perspective, so let's have a look at that. Okay, so Lucifer. I think Lucifer is probably one of the most misunderstood, misrepresented entities, if we can call Lucifer an entity to begin with. There's even some question there. So Lucifer means Lightbringer or Lightbearer in Latin. It's a Latin word. And if we go into the Latin, into the Roman pantheon, Lucifer was actually the name of the planet Venus. So, you know, as I say, we can question whether Lucifer is actually an entity, or should I say, was actually an entity. I think in many cases nowadays, Lucifer has possibly become an entity through means of being an egregore. But when it comes to Lucifer, we have to rather take the meaning of the word Lucifer, so Lightbringer, Lightbearer. And there are many light bearers or Lightbringers in all traditions. In practically every pantheon there is a Lightbearer. In the Celtic pantheon we have Lu, for instance. And through various pantheons we have some kind of deity that is associated with a Lightbringer, usually referring to a dawn or beginning of the day, or even the planet Venus, like in Sumerian we have Inanna. But what I really want to do is dispel this whole thing of Lucifer being an angel, a Christian-related angel who fell from a Christian heaven, because that is completely not true. Lucifer doesn't even, or an entity titled or named Lucifer does not even appear in the Bible. And you might be sitting there thinking, yeah, but what about Isaiah? It was a complete mistranslation. So back in 382 AD, Pope Damasus commissioned someone named Jerome to take the Hebrew Bible and translate that directly into a Latin version. And he went off and he did this, and he completed that work in 405 AD. Now, about 140 years prior to that, somebody by the name of Origen actually translated the original Bible into the Greek version, which was the Septuagint, or the commonly known as the LXX version. And what Origen did throughout was when he encountered anything that related to dawn or bringing the light, he translated into phosphorus. And Jerome went and took, he unfortunately didn't take just the Hebrew version, he also took the Greek Septuagint and used that at the same time while he was doing his translations into the Latin. So the equivalent in Latin to phosphorus is Lucifer. They both basically mean Lightbringer, or bringer of the light, shall we say. Now, when it came to actually translating various things from the Greek into the Latin, such as the verse in Isaiah, he went and translated it directly from the Greek, therefore using the word Lucifer. But the original word in Isaiah in the Hebrew was Halel. And there's a very interesting article, and I'll link to it in the description below, which completely and utterly takes this whole thing to pieces and examines it from every possible angle and aspect you can possibly think of. Now, this word Halal only appears once ever throughout any kind of Hebrew scripture. So there's no association to any kind of verse previously using or even later using this word Halal. So it cannot actually be directly translated. However, in the article you'll find that there are two possibilities, possible different words, Hebrew words, and the most likely translation of this word Halal is an arrogant braggart. And that whole verse actually is speaking of and refers to the king of Babylon. So it doesn't actually refer to an entity named Lucifer to begin with. So when it comes to any association with the Christian Bible and Lucifer, Lucifer actually doesn't appear in the Bible at all. It was mistranslations and, various English translations over the years through the various kings and the versions and everything else have just brought this being to light, excuse the pun, into all the versions of the Bible. So was Lucifer an angel that fell from heaven? No. There is, however, a fashion in which we can look at the whole situation of this angel falling from heaven. Now, as I said, Lucifer was the Latin name of the planet Venus. And it was often personified as a male figure bearing a torch. Now, we usually associate Venus with a female figure, and I'll get to how I see, or how Lucifer appears to me just now, which you might find interesting. But this whole fall from heaven thing actually relates back to the story of Inanna and her fall into the underworld, which is also paralleled to the planet Venus and the progress it makes through the sky through its synodic cycle. So there is an association with Venus, the planet, the morning star, and its progress through the heavens, and its association with Inanna, who is the goddess of Venus, and the myths of Inanna falling into the underworld. And because of that, we have this association of Lucifer being an angel who fell from heaven. But the problem is that association has come to mean that Lucifer is one of the fallen angels. And I think there's a bit of a disassociation that's happened there. So if we look at Lucifer, Lucifer is a Lightbringer. As I said, there are various different deities throughout the different pantheons who actually are associated with the Lightbringer. And quite often, this Lightbringer is also the trickster. And the trickster is very important in a path, in a magical and craft path of any kind. And I'll probably take the whole trickster aspect to bits a bit later in a different video. And when it comes to an actual Lightbringer, what does this whole aspect of Lightbringer mean? It means illuminating your path. It means bringing gnosis, bringing knowledge to your path, to you as a practitioner. And in traditional witchcraft, we often speak of the god with the flame betwixt the horns. And this god with the flame betwixt the horns comes out of the east, out of the place of beginning, out of the place of the rising sun, out of the place of birth and spring. So it's the beginning of life. And this god with the flame betwixt the horns is the bringer of gnosis. The flame is associated with the gnosis, with the knowledge, and that flame illuminates your path. So it brings the knowledge to you. And this is what a Lightbringer is. This is what Lucifer is. And we've even got associations and crossovers with Christ, for instance. So Lucifer is the planet Venus, is called the morning star. Christ was called the morning star. Is Lucifer Christ? You can have associations. Is Lucifer the devil? If you consider the horn god to be the devil, and the horn god is the bringer of gnosis and the bringer of light, then sure. But I think the biggest problem is that people have just taken the whole thing too literally. Christians saying that Lucifer is the devil. There's an association, but it doesn't mean that Lucifer is the devil, or rather that Lucifer is an entity, which is the devil. The Prince of Darkness makes it all sound oogie boogie and scary and whatnot and evil, but if you take the associations, Lucifer brings the light. Where do you find the light? In the darkness. That's where it shines the brightest. So Lucifer is the Prince of Darkness in the aspect of Lucifer will actually find the light, bring it, or rather you become the Lucifer. You venture into the darkness, you bring the light to yourself. So it's an aspect of becoming a god. And when we say becoming a god, not just finding your own divinity, but becoming these deities, these gods who are bringing knowledge to your path, are bringing light to your path. You bring it to yourself. An entity could open the door for you, but you've got to do the work itself. Not going to do it for you. But yeah, there's all these names and titles that have been given to Lucifer over the years, and I do think they've been taken a bit too literally. As I said, the angel that fell from heaven is merely a parallel to the story of Inanna, who is the goddess of Venus, and the fall into the underworld, which is a parallel to the actual planet and its progress through the heavens and through the skies. So all these myths have associations and ties and whatnot, but the interesting thing is, if the translation from the Hebrew into the Latin Vulgate was done properly, then Lucifer would not have appeared in the Bible, and the Christians wouldn't have associated Lucifer as a fallen angel in the first place. So you've got to ask, where did it come from? Where did it come from to begin with? It's just all false. It became an association because somebody did a mistranslation. So anyway, I was going to actually mention how Lucifer appears to me. So I have a traditional witchcraft background, and I am a demonolator. And so when you kind of mix the two, the appearance of Lucifer for me actually makes sense. Lucifer comes to me as a woman with horns and a flame between the horns. So I've already spoken about the traditional witchcraft association of the god with the flame betwixt the horns. But Venus, the planet, or the goddess, Inanna, is the feminine aspect in this situation. So when Lucifer comes to me, it's not just as the Lightbringer, it's also the morning star, Venus, Inanna, the illuminator of the path. There's a lot of associations that happen when Lucifer comes to me, and previously, years ago, Lucifer used to come to me as a masculine figure, and then at some point it just changed. Maybe my own evolution, my own development made this change and brought it forth. But I think, everybody just associates or personifies Lucifer as being masculine, and with the association of Venus, and Venus being being personified as a feminine deity, I don't think we should stick to just a masculine association when it comes to Lucifer. We shouldn't actually stick to a gender when it comes to any of the spirits, actually, because they are genderless. After all, they come to us and they appear to us in a physical form that makes sense to us. If you have read stuff about a particular spirit that appears a particular way, that spirit will probably appear in that form or something similar to that form, because that's your association. That's how you recognize and identify with them. But the spirit itself is just energy, and it doesn't have gender. It's not masculine or feminine. It's both, and it's neither. So these associations of how they appear and how they manifest to you are merely what you've given them, or the aspects that need to be relayed to you in your work, in your path. So just bear that in mind when you're working with spirits. But when it comes to Lucifer, I just, when it comes to the whole Christian association, I completely rejected it, and I have for years and years and years. I mean, it was several years back that I first came across this mistranslation into the Latin Vulgate, and ever since then I just completely rejected this Christian idea of Lucifer being an angel that fell from heaven, and I think it annoys me a bit when I see that association being spoken of by people of the left-hand path, and demonologists and anybody who comes along and says that Lucifer was an angel that fell from heaven. It just doesn't equate, it doesn't click in my head or anywhere else in my body. So I just wanted to actually speak about Lucifer today, to get that out of the way, and my understanding of Lucifer and my experiences with Lucifer. And anyway, so that's it for today. This week on the Black Hat Chat live show, we are talking about necromancy, which is going to be a very interesting topic. There's a lot of aspects within necromancy which I think a lot of people fail to actually realize. And when people talk about necromancy, it's one of those things that where you're only talking to the dead, you're raising the dead or something like that. And there's a lot of different things, a lot of healing that can happen within the aspect of necromancy and the practice of the necromancer. So anyway, so Friday, hope to see you on the live chat, Black Hat Chat. And anyway, see you then. Cheers.